We are going to start to get July housing data. First up, we're going to talk about King County, Washington, aka Seattle. We're going to talk with Miss Beth Traverso and figure out what's going on. How you doing, Beth?
Hi there, doing great, Mike. So nice to be here with you and share with you
Yes.
these stats that are hot off the press, courtesy of Northwest Multiple Listing Service. Gave us our July data for this is for the Seattle metro area, King County. The big question for me was, are we really seeing this shift to a buyer's market or not? And it's
Yeah.
interesting because the data I'm seeing is not supporting the buyer market narrative.
Wow, this is gonna be good because
Yeah.
the big question for me about July, and this is national, so we're talking about King County here, is will transactions break below June? Because June came in at existing home sales came in at 3.89.
Yeah.
And I put out there that I think we're going to break the previous low, which was 3.88. So the first thing I'm worried about is transactions. So did
Hmm.
transactions decline? We'll look at the data. I'm going to call yes, but again, Seattle is its own special bubble.
Yeah, and we'll see, basically, all right, so I'll give it a little bit of a spoiler, but for all of King County, they're up 9.7% year over year. Month over month, different story, Like I
Oh,
think there is a trend, maybe a little more down, slowly going down, but we're still up almost 10% year over year.
now when you're saying 10%, is that price or transactions?
That's transactions, closed sales, change of
Wow.
close. The median price is up 11.3% year over year. But it's funny because in some areas it's down as much as 3%, and in other areas it's up as much as 8. In my little subset on the east side, it's up 17% year over year in our little subsection. So it's just there's wide, it's a bizarre market. Also, when you have fewer data points, I think a few outliers can sometimes skew things a little. Like if you have
Yeah.
more high priced new construction in certain areas, that's gonna skew it one way
Yeah.
versus another. So you have to look at the bigger picture. But overall, we're not seeing the increase in inventory. We still have less than 2 months of inventory across all of King
Wow.
County. So it's just, but then again, like our last talk was about, I'm starting to see some disrespectful offers out there. Disrespectful is kind of a term that we use it colloquially just to mean basically like a low offer. We're seeing more low offers coming in. Um, but it's definitely not, it depends a lot on the specifics of that listing. If it's in a core area, it's a hot commodity, it's going to sell no matter, I mean, I won't say no
Hmm.
matter what, you still have to price it right, but
Sure.
I'm still seeing a few isolated bidding wars. But then the interesting thing is the chatter in the Facebook groups among the agents is that, or and just people talking, is that it's been quieter out there. People are like, "Hey, how's the activity going at your open houses?" And a lot of people said, "Well, it's just been dead out there." So, although I have to
Yeah.
say the weather's been beautiful here in Seattle, and people are out. They're out on the water. They're out in the mountains. They're going on trips.
Yeah, it just feels like real estate has to slow down. And don't forget, we have that August 17th thing coming around the corner. The NAR settlement goes into effect. That's going to create all kinds of commotion. It's certainly going to slow the gears, at least for a little while, as we kind of figure out this buyer, you know,
Has
contract
to
and all that
be,
stuff.
has to be. There's a lot of anxiety about that. Again, not so much in our specific area because our MLS is not owned by NAR. We implemented our changes back in January 1st. So for us, we've got our rhythm down. There's going to
Right.
be a few tweaks on our forms effective here pretty soon. But the big difference here versus most places in the country is that we're still allowed to put on the MLS the buyer agent compensation,
Mm.
and they're not. That's the biggest problem. Is the thing that people are trying to figure out is how to operate without that in the MLS. So it's
Right.
per the terms of that settlement. For people that don't know, the buyer agent compensation is required to be removed altogether from the MLS. You can't put it in the comments. You can't try to hide it somewhere where you can't try to have a workaround. It just needs to be completely removed. I've started hearing some people in other parts of the country saying, in some areas where maybe they already implemented this is something for buyers to watch out for, and agents, is some agents out there. don't really pay much attention, sadly, about what's going on, and they're just writing up offers, maybe not realizing that their compensation is not a given on there. And so one listing agent I heard say that she had received 2 offers since they had implemented the change preemptively that had nothing written in there for the buyer agent compensation, nothing.
Mm.
And her thought was that they didn't know that they needed to put that in there. And so the default, I would say, I'm not a lawyer and I don't know their contracts in that out of state area, but the buyer would be on the hook for that, because if a buyer agency agreement is required and that buyer agency agreement says the agent's going to be paid X amount and that's not nowhere in the offer, guess who pays it? The buyer. I mean, you could try to go back and ask the seller later, but the seller would probably say no. I mean, that's not what our contract
Pound
says.
sand. Yeah. Let me go look at the contract. Nope, not there.
If it's not there, you can't just, yeah, people, there's going to be some fallout from
Surprise.
this
There'll be
for a
some
while, and a
surprises.
lot of
Yeah.
agents are really scared. But what I have found is that most sellers still do want to incentivize buyer agents and buyers to purchase their home, especially, even though our local data is very strong, we still it's still not necessarily bidding wars on every house, and you don't want to make it harder for a buyer potentially to purchase your home than another. So it's a discussion that needs to be had case by case. But again, buyers and buyer agents, don't just assume that you're going to be paid buyer
Yep.
agent or that your agent's being paid buyer. You need to make sure that that's in the contract, and there needs to be an understanding. Don't just click through the DocuSign or whatever without realizing what you're signing. You need to have that conversation, especially now where people are getting used to new things. How is this compensation going to happen, and am I going to be charged or not?
Yep.
If so,
Yep.
how much? You need to know.
Yeah. There's going to be
Specifically
a
ask that.
lot of friction going into the
Mhm.
home buying and selling process. But let's go ahead. Let's look at July data because again, I think there's a
Yeah,
chance
let's
the
take a
country
look. We'll
goes.
do a screen share here. We can look at our shared screen here, and I'm hoping that this is, let me see, maybe I'll make this a little bigger.
Thank you.
How's that?
Looks
Good?
good.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, this is pending listings, and I'm
Okay.
looking back 3 years here so we can see kind of the height of the crazy over here in
Mhm.
2021, where
Yep.
we had the most, and then it's been kind of trending down. But you can see it's not been a huge fall off here, a little bit from the peak,
Mhm.
seasonal peak, which was in May. So we always have a bit of a slowdown. As you can see, it happens every year
Right.
around this time, and then it drop. Of course, January being the lowest because that's going to reflect the
Mhm.
holidays.
Okay.
Now, you were wanting to look at active listings,
Well,
or
I would want to look at closings. Do you have closings here or no?
yeah, sales, number
Volume.
of sales. Here we
Yep.
go.
Yep. Number of volume. Yeah.
Let's generate this here. Again, this is courtesy of Northwest MLS.
Ooh, it
All
went up.
right. Yeah. So it is down, but not, it's still, here we see the one thing about this is okay, so it shows July
18. Okay. 96.
1896, and then, pardon me, July
Sure.
1681.
All right. So you're up. You're up.
Mm-hmm.
How about month on month? Is
Yeah. So month on month here,
that June?
June was 1821,
Oh, so you're up a
July
little bit.
1896.
You're up 2 or 3%. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
So not seeing the
Seattle did.
drop.
Yep. Seattle did not come in. So okay. All right.
Yeah, this is the greater Seattle area, just so people understand. It's Seattle,
Mhm.
Bellevue, all the suburbs where all the tech companies are, et cetera. If you know the area, it's both sides of Lake Washington. Encompasses a lot of different areas.
Okay.
So let's see what else we got here.
Let's do price. Median
Yeah, that's
price.
the one that always people want to know, right? The median sale price. That is trending down from our peak because we did go back briefly to our peak of 1 million.
Hmm.
And here we have, so this was back in June. It touched at 983. For some reason, sometimes there's a little bit of wiggle room on some of these ways some of these
Hmm.
stats are calculated. We're down from that now to, I believe this is about 880, 89, well, wait, 990. That doesn't make sense. 990. What's
Hmm.
weird about that is that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, graphically that does not make sense.
What?
Yeah.
Something does not compute here.
Yeah.
So, but okay,
All
so
right.
going to my chart here shows, I don't know about month over month, but I've got my printed chart here too.
Sure.
We have our median sale price for July for just residential was 999
Oh wow.
in June of 2020, July of 2024, and July of 2023 was 897. So we are up
Wow.
11.3% year over year for residential. I took condos out of this because they're a little too volatile and all over. There's not as many. It's a different market with condo
Sure.
sales.
Wow.
So
So $1 million, 999.
right about $1 million still for residential. I think if you combine them both together, condo and residential, it comes to about 880 or so. So, but we are, despite what this says here, I think, we're close to the peak. We haven't seen the drop off yet, but you can see annually there is a little bit of a crawl down from
Hmm.
summer down into the winter time. So if you want to look for the lowest median sale price of the year, that would be right around the holidays.
Yep.
So buyers looking to capture that, there's always opportunity there during the
Yeah.
holidays. The flip side of it is that's also when our inventory tends to be at the very lowest as well.
Yeah. The beauty of a January closing means you went into contract around Thanksgiving or between
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving and Christmas. So that's the time I
Yeah,
like to go shopping.
I do too. You'll find people who are really motivated to sell during that
Yep.
time.
Yep. Exactly.
Yes, this is our okay, so despite what it says up here, this is actually the days to sell, median days to sell.
Hmm.
So we're still at 7 days. So
That's you're not even a teenager.
I know. And I find that's kind of hard to believe because I'm seeing lots of examples of houses taking 30 or more days to sell. So what
Interesting.
I would say is this might be overall of the thousands of listings, but if you look at individual, you look in your individual buy box, you'll find those outliers.
Yeah. That's where I'd
So
be
because I'm
shopping.
knowing
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of houses out there taking a lot longer than 7 days to sell. So
Hmm.
I wouldn't be too discouraged by that, but
Right.
it does seem to me that from what I've been seeing and hearing, like the bulk of if we're looking nationwide, it seems like the bulk of the inventory building and the days on market building tends to be in the Florida through Texas area
Yep. Correct.
down there in the southeast. And I think that might be skewing things nationwide to an extent.
For
So
sure.
for me, the big question is what is going to happen in August with the interest rate dip,
Hmm.
but then also the stock market doing what it's doing.
It's going to be wild. It's going to be fun.
That's the
All right.
big question.
Let's look at inventory. That will close out on inventory.
Yeah. So what would that be? Active number of listings?
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
try that one.
Should be.
Okay, computer's thinking. So sorry for
Hmm.
the silence there. Here we go.
It's okay. Oh,
Okay.
that's
So, the inventory is up from last year. This was
yeah.
the peak in October last fall. Now, this was when interest rates were around 8%.
Hmm.
That was our peak last year, 2179. And then we're at 3,000 here. So there is, inventory is building here.
Yeah.
But we're
Yeah.
talking 3,000 listings over a metropolitan area that has last I checked, about 2.2 million people.
Hmm.
So it doesn't seem to be, I'm not seeing a flood of listings out there, but
Yeah.
we're
Could you
not
go
seeing the
back?
bidding wars.
Could you go back 5 years on this particular chart
Yes,
just
I
to see what
can. Back
inventory
five
was
years.
like?
Let's try this. If you want to see
There you go.
pre-pandemic,
Yeah.
2019 was when, if I'm remembering correctly, that's when we saw our biggest inventory was in the last 5 years was in 2019 before
There
COVID.
you go. Yeah.
Here you see this. Yeah, 42, 47 back in July of 2019.
Okay.
The interesting thing was, I remember back in 2019 being very happy with that market. I loved that market because it was very nice and balanced. It felt like buyers had a decent chance of getting a house
Yeah.
with
Nothing
maybe
was
one to two
flying off the
offers.
shelf. Yeah.
Yeah, sellers had a reasonable expectation of being able to get their home off the market in a reasonable amount of time. Buyers were getting offers accepted. I loved this market.
Yeah.
And then it all went, we all know
It,
what happened
it all
here.
went
And look
crazy.
at this down here in January of 2020, 485 listings in the entire King County area of all price points. No wonder prices just shot through the roof because
That's
rates were
wild.
around 3 of that, I don't know, somewhere around
Yeah.
3 at that point too.
Yeah.
So,
Wild, wild. Well, it's going to be
bananas.
interesting. So, if
Yeah.
I were to kind of summarize King County, Seattle, Greater Seattle, it's inventory is building, days on market are trending up, price is not deteriorating. Um, it's. I guess I would say the market's slowing down. It's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah. And we see that every summer.
Hmm.
So, the question I'm asking is this our normal summer seasonality? Or
Mm.
is it something more? And of course, every year and every market's going to have its different variables. Um, like I just said, the fact that just since this data came out, we saw this pretty notable drop in interest rates.
Yeah,
Is that going to bring people off the sidelines? I think it very well may. But then there's this other side of it. The reason why they drop, interest rates don't drop usually in a vacuum. There's something happened. And so,
hmm,
and that might be the reason why maybe people don't jump in. So if people feel like their stock portfolio is taking a hit and they're feeling conservative with their funds, that could hold them back. Or if they're nervous about the upcoming election, things of that nature. Or some
yeah,
people are waiting for rates to drop more later. So we have
yeah,
all those things going on. And so it has yet to be seen how that's going to even out because the market doesn't move fast. It kind of takes a little time to notice the trends and see what's going on. It's too early to know
yeah.
right now.
I'm curious what if you're. I'm hearing it a lot, but you do this for a living. I'm hearing a lot of buyers, would be buyers, just say, "I'm going to wait till after the election." And I've been doing this for a long time. This seems to be really the first election that I'm really hearing that a lot. Are you hearing that as well?
We're hearing that some, but what I'm hearing more is people waiting for interest rates to go down more.
Hmm.
So,
That's interesting.
and probably because, with prices being as high as they are, it still is, affordability not great at all
Not
around
great.
here. I feel for people, feel that pain. It's a real thing. And if interest rates come down more, but here's the catch 22 is will that really help you? Because let's say if rates were down to 5 and you have all these buyers flooding in off the sidelines, I think that's going to drive the price up. And I heard in your daily financial news this morning that a 1% price change brings about 10% more affordability to the mix. But then what if the price ends up going up 10% because more people are coming in?
Yep.
And so it's hard to say if you would be able to win with that. I still think that trying to time that's going to be very challenging.
Mhm.
Um my broken crystal ball would be just my feeling is that it's going to be a little bit bumpy between now and the end of the year.
Yes.
Because by the time the election is over, then we're sliding into the holidays where it's always going to be kind of quiet. But if rates are going down and things are settling out, maybe by then, potentially with the people's potential anxiety about the election and other things, and it has some chance to kind of normalize a little bit. And then we have our for us, our seasonal bump in January. That's when I'm thinking it could potentially take
Yeah.
off.
It's going to be interesting. I do think the second half is going to be slower than it normally would be. The variable out there is, rates. I mean, if rates took another drop of a full 1 point, that could be enough. Also, it's really interesting. You brought up a really good point. When rates are rising, people rush in so they don't get priced out. Now that we've seen a significant drop in rates, you are right. I think there's a lot of people that'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to wait a little bit more," and that might be a foolish bet because maybe
I
rates
know.
don't go down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And here's the thing too is sometimes buyers in my area I see, because we've been a hot sellers market kind of for a long, long time. When you're
Sure.
looking at the 40-year appreciation, like Washington was the highest, and that was mostly this part of Washington account for
Hmm.
most of that. But the so sometimes people get lulled into a sense of feeling like they have all the time in the world, and they don't
Hmm.
usually.
True.
So sometimes these buyers will see, and because I've been doing this for so many years, myself and other agents that have been in the business a long time, we notice the trends and the cycle that happens. But if it's your first time going through it yourself, you might not trust that so much because it's new
Yep.
to you. But if you see that buyers are having more, oh, we've seeing houses staying on the market longer, we feel like we can just hang around and wait and, find the right thing when we're good and ready. I'm not saying people should ever rush to do something that they shouldn't do. Don't take me any of this wrong, but people should do what makes sense for them financially. But if you're trying to time the market, a lot of times buyers don't trust the lulls, that it really is a temporary lull, or they think it's going to last forever, but then it doesn't. And in our market, it's the switch just flips like that instantly.
Mm.
As soon as 1 week cycle goes along where all of a sudden the houses that you thought you could take your sweet time on are selling with multiple offers, the psychology just flips instantly. And then it's just game on where people are trying to outcompete each other.
Yeah.
So,
It's wild.
right now that switch is off for most listings, but then I think if rates come down and the seasonality kicks in like it normally does in the first quarter, I think we
It's
may
gonna be
see a
wild.
bump.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, this is fun. I know we will be talking every week. We're certainly reviewing the numbers every month. One more time, shout out the MLS.
Yes, Northwest Multiple Listing Service.
And
Yeah.
Beth, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, buy, sell, or get a referral to another top agent, how would they do that?
Yeah, I can be found at bethtraversogroup.com, or you can chat with me in the One Rental at a Time Facebook group or the school group.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mhm.